Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Izzo.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome, everybody, to Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV to our friends in Sioux Falls. We say good morning. KMBN in Western South Dakota and all parts in between at Inforum.com. I am Dom Izzo, host of said show. Welcome to our program on a Hump Day Wednesday, the 22nd of July. We have boat raced this month and ready to kick it out and get August here, which means then football games will be happening. As I sit here before you, NFL teams have officially reported to training camp. I believe the Cardinals and the Panthers are there. Everybody will be in the boat by this weekend. The Vikings rookies report on Sunday. The Vets early next week. And then it's on. A week from today, North Dakota State and the University of North Dakota begin their fall camps respectively. So it is on after that. And a week after that, high school football practice begins. A couple weeks after that, Minnesota gets going. Since their season starts a little bit later, and then we're off and rolling because the games are coming. So for those that dread July on the sports calendar, you can thank the World Cup for getting us basically almost through the entire month, because this week is particularly slow, and then after that we're rocking and rolling towards August and the fun that comes with that. We got a lot to unpack here today. There's no slow times for us around here. And we'll certainly hit that pretty hard here over the next couple hours, at least try to, including a couple of fun conversations that we had in Las Vegas. One with Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun. It was that was a non-football conversation. I'm just going to tell you that right now. We're going to have that in the second hour of our program. And football is what brought us there. But to me, this is my first ever opportunity to interview any of the head coaches from the service academies. No offense to Maurice Drayton, who's the head coach of the Citadel, who we had on a couple of times last year when North Dakota State was getting ready to play in Charleston. That is a different academy, different institution than what the Air Force is, than what the Naval Academy is, and what West Point is. And you'll see what I mean with our interview with Coach Calhoun coming up in our second hour. I'm really excited for people to see and hear that because it's some heavy stuff. I'll just say that. Speaking of heavy, the Twins are plummeting like an anchor here over the last week. After the All-Star break, and we talked with Corey Provis about this on Friday's show, and I asked him, is the break come at a bad time? Because the Twins were humming into it, right? They won a series with the Yankees. They took 2 or 3 from the Guardians. They won 2 or 3 from the Angels. They had won 5 straight series heading into the break. And out of the break, they lost a series to the Cubs. They got their brains beaten in back-to-back games in Chicago after Bailey Ober won their game on Friday to get them back to 500. And then since then, things have – the ship is sinking is maybe the best way to describe it because they can't do anything right now. Monday night, Joe Ryan allowed 6 home runs. Last night, the Twins got a home run from Ryan Jeffers, maybe in one of his final games as a Minnesota Twin? Question mark. Not sure. Got him off to a 1-0 lead. That was about it for bright spots. Stephen Kwan would respond in the bottom of the third, off Kendry Rojas into the gap in right center. Austin Hedges would score, tie the game up at 1. Later in the third, Brian Rocchio up at the plate, who had one of the 6 homers off Joe Ryan on Monday, delivers with a base hit to right. Kwan would come in to score. It's a 2-1 Cleveland lead through 3. That was probably the cleanest runs of the game for the Guardians, because after that, it got ugly. Like this defensive play, because I'm not sure what's going on here. It gets underneath the pitcher, then thrown away. Royce Lewis, we save. Josh Bell scores. We're tied at 2. Then, again, I make a habit of not showing any sac fly highlights, but when it's the go-ahead run, is Austin Hedges hits one out to left to plate, the third run for the Guardians. And then, how about more sac fly? Petey Halpin, who had 2 home runs on Monday, flies out to center. This play was challenged, initially called out. Watch again, though. The tag misses, and he's safe. It's overturned as Travis Bazzana scored to make it 4-2. Bazzana then would deliver an RBI single in the 7th. Guardians go on and beat the Twins 5-2. That's 4 in a row. Going the wrong way. And again, offense, they can't score any. Had 4 runs on Monday night, 2 last night. Going the wrong way right now. It'll be up to Bailey Ober to see if they can win here tonight for game number 3. And again, remember the trade deadline has been pushed back. Deadline is now a week from Monday. It's not the final week of July. So that gives them a little more leeway to make a decision. But out of the break, they're 1-4. And what do we talk about with Provis when he joined us on Friday's show? That they've got to be 4-5, 5-4, 3-6 ain't going to cut it. They're trending in that direction right now with 2 big games. Night game today and then a day game tomorrow with the Guardians before they're back home and the Athletics come to Target Field this weekend. So it's trending in the wrong direction right now for the old Minnesota 9. Even though the Buxton is back, they are making it easy on management to decide to pull the plug. If they want to go in that direction and trade Jeffers, trade Bell, they might do that anyway, even if they were in contention. They are certainly playing to that capability to say, yep, we're ready to I don't even, again, 2027 might be folly because I don't even know how much of a baseball season we'll have, but they are certainly looking like they are ready to pack it in. Pitching has been inconsistent. Again, they only have 4 guys right now with the amount of guys that are hurt. And Connor Prelip, whenever he comes back, has already pitched as many innings as he's ever thrown. So they're already maxed out in terms of arms that are available to them. Unless they're bringing up guys we've never heard of, and that's, Festa is out. If you missed this news, and maybe Sam talked about it on Monday, Festa's done. Abel's done for the year. That's the one that really hurts because Abel, even though he started, I think it was 4 games, looked really good in the 4 games. He was trending this way, and then we don't see him after April. And we already lost Lopez on the first day of spring training. That puts you in a tough bit for the season to play out. I wanted to get one other thing in. I got this sent by a friend of the show who also, I know Dan Barrero on KFan listens to him all the time or uses his stuff all the time, and he's a friend of our program. Dan Winnesota on Twitter sent me this yesterday after we were talking at the end of the show on the Wild announcement that they are starting their own channel, the NHL starting their own deal, where they're going to broadcast their own games, much like the Minnesota Twins have done now. The Twins are in their second year of Twins TV. We don't know what it's going to be called, if it's Wild TV or something of that nature. We don't know where the games are going to air, how much it's going to cost if you want to stream them. But I thought this was interesting. I'm going to pull this up here quick because he put this on my social media feed yesterday, and this is just related to the Minnesota teams in our viewing area, where the Gophers are on Big Ten Network or Big Ten Plus, right? The Loons are on Apple TV, so if you want to watch MLS, that's where you'll find them. We know the Twins are on Twins TV. The Lynx are on Victory. That's a streaming service as well. And now the Wild are coming to their new service, and we don't know yet about the Timberwolves. And he asks, is this good for Minnesota sports fans, or does it cater to the diehards who only watch their favorite sport? And I thought that last part is really interesting to me. Because if you only care about the Twins, then Twins TV is perfect for you, right? Then you can cut the cord, and I'm sure many have, and say, you know what, I'm buying the service for the 150 games that they're going to have on, and I'm good to go. I don't need to worry about cable because I don't care about the Wolves. I don't care about the Wild. The Vikings, I know I'm going to get over the air anyway, right? I'm going to get the Vikes on Fox and CBS for the most part. Maybe occasionally ESPN will have a game, maybe Netflix or Amazon, but that's a one-off, right? I can do that. And if you're a Wild fan, right, you don't care about the Wolves or the Twins, then this new service is right up your alley, right? But if you want to watch all of them, and that's his main point here, then you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially 6 separate services to watch games. And that's the crux of being a sports fan now in 2026. And we've talked about this plenty over the last few years of the rise of streaming with sports. You know, Netflix obviously getting into the waters now with its deal with Major League Baseball. Heck, for Twins fans, if they want to watch the Field of Dreams game coming up in a couple weeks in Iowa, that's a Netflix-only game. That's the only way you're going to be able to watch it. That you're putting out quite a bit of money. That is if you're just going off the top of my head here on what each of this costs per month, it probably $70, maybe more, to watch your favorite teams. Frankly, I couldn't even tell you the Apple TV deal with MLS. I mean, it's so off the radar that I don't know many people even know, our next guest might know, what it costs monthly or yearly to watch the MLS. That's the crux of it. I just got an email this morning asking me, do I want to renew my NFL Plus subscription? Now, the NFL Plus one is basically, at least for me, it's to archive old games. They have all games, I don't even know how far back they go. The full game broadcast for $100 for the year. I don't know if that's necessarily worth it or not. I'm still weighing if I'm going to do the Sunday ticket deal. Red Zone may be what I've had Sunday ticket for almost 20 years now, and it's been fantastic, but attention span for me has certainly gone down as I've gotten older. That Red Zone is probably perfect if I want to go down that juncture. The larger point of this is, when is the breaking point for sports fans to say, I'm out? This might be it, at least for Minnesota sports fans, or at least you could have it a la carte. Like, I just care about the Wolves. That's what I'm going to get. That's what I'm going to pay for. Because I can tell you right now, Gopher hockey's not a huge thing for me, or the Loons. I don't care. The Twins one I got. Twins one I was going to, the baseball package is another one I've had for 20-some-odd years. That's non-negotiable, especially since I live here and my favorite team plays 1,500 miles away. That was a price I was willing to pay. But this was something Sam Getzinger and I were just talking about yesterday in the upstairs after this announcement came from the Wild. Because when I decided I was done with DirecTV, I knew full well that I would have to make a decision on what I was going to do for the Wild and the Wolves, knowing that Bally or FanDuel, whatever it was called, was done, that they were going to have new television homes for this upcoming year. Now, for the Wild, I would watch them when they are on ESPN or ABC or TNT. I can't tell you the last time I probably watched a Bally broadcast or whatever they were on. The Wolves I would watch. The Wolves I'd watch probably, of 82 regular season games, I watched 60 to 65 of them. I love watching them play. I'm intrigued. They're good. And that's not to say the Wild aren't. But I haven't made up my mind yet what I'm going to do on Wild broadcast for next year. Wolves, I'm in. And who knows we don't know what they're going to do, especially up here. and that was another question I got before we set up the show, for the wild local market, because some of you have ESPN Plus. That's the great deal with the NHL, that I get every game anyway because they stream every game on NHL on ESPN Plus. But North Dakota is considered the wild television market, so that will be blacked out on ESPN Plus to watch those games that are on their new service. The blackout rules don't even get me started. That's a whole other 2-hour show we could fill, especially on the baseball one. But I am interested to see what fans will do, because that tweet was like, that's the breaking point. And that doesn't even include the Vikings in there. Like, if you want to put the Vikes in, right, if I'm diehard, I love the purple, and no matter what, that means we already went through this. You need Netflix, you need Amazon, you need Peacock, ESPN Plus, on top of obviously getting over the air with CBS, NBC, ABC. That is a lot for sports fans these days. It's a lot. And I don't blame one bit for saying, I'm out. You know, I can see the highlights on my phone the next day. I don't blame one bit on that. That's a larger range discussion, but it's now come here to Minnesota. It's hitting other markets. Now it's here with what's going on with the Wild, the Wolves, and the Twins, because their regional cable homes are now kaput for everybody. Twins got a head start on this a couple years ago. Now the Wild and the Wolves are thrown into the mix. Going to be really interesting to see. I want to know what it's available on and how much it's going to cost. That's the two questions everybody wants to know. We're probably not going to know the answers on either one of those for either team, I'd say, till September. It's the end of July. They announce it now. They had a cool hip video the Wild put out yesterday. You're not going to have any answers on that till remember the Twins? We didn't find out till the week of. Like, the Twins were playing games, I think, a couple of years ago with Twins TV. We found out 2 or 3 days before opening day what channel they were going to be on. Buckle up, everybody. We have a packed show to get to here on this Wednesday hump day. Our guest lineup is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Our guy Drew Trafton will join us in just a few minutes to unpack everything we saw over the last 6 weeks. And now look ahead. What's up for soccer for the non-soccer fans and the next World Cup, because already FIFA's got grand plans of making this even bigger in 2030. We'll talk about that coming up at just a few minutes. At 9:35, one of our conversations we had with one of the athletes at Mountain West Media Days, the Mountain West preseason Offensive Player of the Year. UNLV running back Jaden Thomas joins the show. One of the rarities in college football, a 4-year player at Nevada, Las Vegas, and his thoughts about North Dakota State coming to the league. Excited about that. I already teased our conversation with Troy Calhoun. I'll just save that for 10 o'clock. It's really good with the Air Force head football coach on a variety of subjects, the least of which is football, that we talk about at 10 o'clock. And we wrap the show at 10:35. If you missed the news over the weekend, the Spuds are heading back to Hockey Day, Minnesota. Jon Ammerman will join us on Moorhead being selected for Hockey Day once again. This year, it's at Brainerd Raceways, which will be really interesting to see what they do for that setup. It's now a week-long deal. And also, going back to the TV part of this, I had this asked of me over the weekend, where is that airing? Because FanDuel or Bally or Fox Sports North has always been the home of Hockey Day Minnesota. If that channel is now kaput, where's Hockey Day airing? I don't know if John has the answer on that. We'll ask, and everything, the details of going in to the Spuds playing Minnetonka coming up on Hockey Day in January of 2027. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Wednesday morning. We'll take our first break. We come back. The future of soccer in America being debated over the last month and a half. Our next guest will try to have the answer to that as well. We're off and rolling. Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra right after this.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, buddy boy. It's great to see you. We have
you
not seen each other in a couple weeks. Last time you were on was right after the United States crash out against Belgium. Breaking news, the tournament continued. It didn't end when the United States was out.
It actually got much better. Like, it was, I mean, it was very entertaining leading up to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there were plenty of good storylines, but there were some really great quarterfinals, semifinals.
Yes. I only say that because how many viewers probably said, I'm out,
sure.
Right?
Did you see the ratings, though?
Well, I wanted to get to that in just a second because there's a lot of big picture things I want to hit. Let's just start first with the game. that was the downer of the tournament, was the championship game. I really thought
it was really for like if you're a really like a studious soccer fan, or and you can appreciate the intricacies of the game. It was interesting, and it was like, but I felt it was inevitable from the get-go. Like after the first few minutes, it's like, Argentina doesn't have the legs for this, but they were so smart.
On their heels the entire game.
It was like, I looked at it like this. Okay, you had one team that's extremely mature and experienced in Argentina that played a very smart game given their limitations, and they recognized them. But in doing that neutralized Messi.
Yeah, totally.
Which was like, which is a bummer that's the game that he goes out on for Argentina, seemingly. And then on the other side, you have this like really talented Spanish team that's very disciplined, and they know what they're going to do, and they don't break shape. And that was really like, that was really impressive, I thought, as a soccer fan watching them do this. But you have that thing in soccer where the result isn't always fair.
Yeah.
It's like you can just like in life, right? I mean, it's like you can play better than your opponent. You can do everything right, and then one tiny thing, and this, it's not exclusive to soccer, it's sports in general, but it happens more in soccer where the lesser team wins. And that was Argentina's hope. They're hanging on that nail, and it just didn't happen. And then Spain finally broke through.
Once they got the red cards, Argentina, and got the guy sent off, like, all right, that's going to
getting to
really hard,
at that point.
to get 30 minutes or whatever,
So
35
hard.
minutes to get to penalties. Like, that seems like a road too hard to
right.
to cross.
And I mean,
there.
just back to that original point, like Argentina did not have a shot on goal, through the match, and Spain kept pressuring, and it was interesting from that standpoint. The third place game the day before,
that was awesome.
We wanted to watch that.
I did watch that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I turned it off. It was 4-0, and then my phone went off because I get the alerts from Fox like, hey, it's 4-2. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, all right, this could be like a 6-0 rout because the broadcasters, whoever did that game, those guys were my favorites. I think Darren Fletcher is his name. He was really good.
So good.
And he kept using NFL analogies, which got a little over the top, but like, all right, for the non-soccer fans, that was fantastic. If we had half of that in the final,
right? Yeah.
I mean, we already had what the final had, counting Telemundo and Fox, 63 million people watched the game.
Yeah. So for context, from what I read,
63.
That's more than any live broadcast, with the exception of the Super Bowls that have been played since the '94 Olympics.
Which so that's the Tanya and Nancy Kerrigan Olympics, which everybody watched.
Right.
And that wasn't even live in 1994.
Yeah, which is really impressive considering it was Argentina and Spain,
Yes.
and like
It wasn't England.
No.
It wasn't France.
Right, it wasn't Norway. Like some of these teams that had these like really popular athletes, involved. I mean, you had Messi, of course, but I think
43 million on
it was
Fox.
impressive.
43
That's
million
an audience.
viewers. So that begs the question now of where we go from here. So there's a few offshoots of this I want to hit with you. So 2030 World Cup is in Morocco, Spain, and Portugal. It's going to be split up among 3 separate countries.
Yes, and they're playing
one match in Uruguay, I want to say.
The first 2 matches.
Because it's the 100th anniversary of the World Cup.
And that's where they started.
So we don't know who's televising this.
Right.
And obviously Fox wants back in. They got a discount for this one because the last one was in Qatar. So they, I don't know, like $500 million they paid for this.
Yeah,
they made
insanely
money
cheap.
hand over fist on this.
Yes.
ESPN has shown interest. NBC, which has the Premier League, would like to do it.
Yes.
Who do you think gets it? I know it's impossible to answer. Who do you think gets it? Who do you want to get it, and who do you think will get it?
I want ESPN to get it back. I think they just did it better than Fox did, and I think Fox did fine. They did fine. I don't think the product was what they wanted. I think they oversaw the decline of the U.S. women's team. in some respects, which was a big motivator. You know, that was the U.S. audience. That's who you got on there.
And honestly, they got the U.S. winning 2 of them on the women's side. They won in 15, they won in 19, and they crashed out in 23.
And then they had a couple men's World Cups.
And the men didn't even make it.
Right.
The men didn't even make it in 2018 in Russia.
And then you had World Cups. Those World Cups were in far off time zones.
Right.
So you had games
Russia
in the middle
was
of
what,
the night.
8 or 9 hours ahead, and then Qatar was, I think, is just the same, right? I believe so.
And that one was at a completely different season.
Right, it was in December.
It wasn't in the
great
summer.
Point. Yep.
And so I think Fox just didn't ever get what they were really. I think they got a great deal with this World Cup. I think the total revenues that I saw
this
were
probably made up for the last 4 that flamed out for them.
The total revenues that I saw for FIFA, it was $9 billion that they made off of this one World Cup, and which is insane.
Yeah.
And I like ticket sales alone, I know were over $3 billion.
Yeah, that was a made up story. The stadiums were all full.
Yeah, but so I want ESPN to get it. I just don't know where they're positioned currently. I mean, you get so many different stories about the money
and
that
Disney
that
just
they
laid
have
off
available.
a bunch of people.
So it's like, do they put that much into a tournament that's once every 4 years?
Right.
Because you're definitely then counting on more interest in the United States with other soccer products.
Yep.
And when they're outside the time zones, and when you have big tournaments only every couple years at most, it's really hard to say like, okay, this is going to result in more.
Ask NBC
interest.
about that with the Olympics.
Right.
I mean, they have everything going
Yes.
for LA for 2 years from now.
Yes.
Everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, they did well with Milan here earlier this year, but Paris was a godsend for them. But ask them about the 3 prior. They were all in Asia.
Yeah.
I mean, the ratings for that were terrible.
And if one of those networks could take the MLS away from Apple, which MLS did that to themselves.
Correct.
Like
they totally
signed
made a
up for
deal
that.
with that.
They were one of the
Absolutely.
early adopters of the streaming package. And if like then you might have a window into who's going to do this, but so I could see it staying with Fox, I suppose. Like is my answer. I think that it might stay with Fox, but I'd like to see ESPN.
My
get
answer
it
on
back.
that would be I'm with you on ESPN. I think it's going to stay with Fox. I don't see NBC paying, especially now that him and Comcast have dissolved.
Yeah.
That I don't see NBC already with the Olympics.
Yeah.
They're going to pay over the hill for Sunday Night Football to stay. I don't know if they have another one to keep get the World Cup.
Yeah, and I'm a huge soccer supporter and fan, but like the TV, like just working in my position in the industry alone, and those guys know so much more about it and how the money is spent. I don't think that is a smart investment to be like, let's go get the World Cup.
Especially because the 2030 is, we mentioned, has 34 been announced yet?
It's in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay. So there you go. I mean, there's another one that might probably have to be played in December. They're going to play that in June and July.
Potentially, right. And then 38's up for grabs, and a lot of people think
Bring it back here.
it's going to come back to the United States after you see what
I think
what
FIFA would do
there.
that in a heartbeat after.
I think so too, and I don't think they need Canada and Mexico involved at this point. I think they'd make it a U.S.
All right, 2 real quick questions we got from viewer emails. Dami asked Drew, is the hydration breaks to stay? Is that something
I hope not. I mean, it was really interesting to see how like tactically teams would change out of the break. I think that kept Argentina in the match in the final longer than they should have been. I think it helped teams like the United States, where we were really like I think Poch used those opportunities to really like reaffirm messages. But it's just not true to the game. It's just not. I like to see them make it an optional thing. Like I don't think it should stick around because it becomes a game of quarters then, and that's not
right.
That's
not
soccer.
Is Messi back? Was the other email?
No.
Does he play in 20?
I think he could play in the Copa. Like I think we could see him
that's
again in
2
2
years
years.
from now, right?
And that whole thing could then be like
that's
his
here, right?
His send off. It might be here.
Oh, okay.
So that's really interesting.
We have the Olympics
too.
that year.
Well, and those tournaments would typically tournament would typically take place when the Olympics would be going.
But
so
the
they'd
best
have to
players
offset
don't
it a
play
little
in the
bit.
Olympics, though.
Correct. So for men's soccer, it's not a senior tournament.
Right.
Where in the women's soccer it is.
Yeah.
But so we could see it like offset. I could see that being the case where like Messi gets like his Copa send off. Like would make a lot of sense to me.
It was fun to watch. I will say that the amount of
really
people
fun.
that are into this now, it was fun to see that people get wrapped up in it. I'm on the fence if I'm ready to make a Premier League commitment.
Yeah.
I tried to do this 10 years ago, and I did it, and then it fizzled out. I'm wondering if I'm going to do it again.
Because that's, like 6 hours ahead.
Right.
And so you're getting up
Saturday
in the morning.
And my Saturday mornings from, I don't know, to September to January are normally full, you know?
Right. Yeah. And that's the season.
Yeah.
That's when
it's half the season.
So that's, and that's the big part of it. So it's tough. I'm with you. I kind of treat it like leagues where I'm not totally invested, where I find players that I really like.
Who's Holland play for?
He plays for Man City.
Man City,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I'm wearing Man City colors. I might as well just hop on board with them, right?
yeah,
Is that
sure.
a bandwagon team?
Oh well, yeah. It would, of course, but it doesn't matter. It's
I root for
League,
teams
right?
that are terrible, right? I'm a Jet and a Met fan, so
enjoy yourself.
Who should I like? Crystal Palace? Like, who do I get on board with?
I think doesn't Woody Johnson own Crystal Palace?
Oh God, well, I don't know part of that then.
I think he might own Crystal Palace.
When you're back next week, we actually start American football because we got training camp started, and we got our fantasy football league starting up again.
Hard Knocks starts next week for my Seahawks. It'll be great.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for coming by. Great stuff all with the World Cup, man. That was great stuff for our guests. I think our viewers, I think they really appreciated your insight on that. Thanks for doing it as always. Drew Trafton joining us each and every Wednesday here at 9:20. We come back. You'll meet one of the stars of the Mountain West Conference, UNLV running back Jayden Thomas, on the Rebels being the preseason pick. That's coming up when we come back.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
Welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Drew Trafton for giving us a few minutes there. We got a bunch of emails coming in on the streaming sports topic that we hit off the top of the show. We'll get to that coming up in about an hour from now. We've got a couple guests lined up, but we'll get to that because I appreciate the comments coming back and some different viewpoints on what people are willing or not willing to pay for. We are rolling through some of the interviews that we didn't get a chance to have live on our broadcast when we were out in Las Vegas last week, and you've heard from nearly half the coaches. Still got half to go, and we're going to do that over the next few days to sprinkle them in. We also got a few of the top athletes in the league, including our next guest, which is the Mountain West preseason Offensive Player of the Year, UNLV running back Jayden Thomas, who, if you saw just a brief clip there when we went to commercial, has the speed that will certainly frustrate any defensive coordinator or linebacker that will try and tackle him. And he is a true rarity in college football these days, which I shake my head about, that he's been at the same school for all 4 years, and he had an opportunity to potentially leave, but you'll hear from my interview with him that UNLV stuck with him, and he was going to be loyal to them. And now an opportunity for UNLV to really make some history for their football program and do some damage. We talk about that, and obviously about North Dakota State coming in when he knew about the Bison, and the Bison coming to Vegas for their game in October. Here's my conversation with Jayden Thomas.
I've been showing highlights of you on my show for the last couple of weeks, months, to get people in Fargo ready for what UNLV brings to the table. Tell me about expectations now for this team after the success you guys have had over the last couple of years.
Our number one expectation this year is just winning. We want to keep that winning foundation that we built for these past couple of years. So that's been the number one focus for this upcoming season.
Describe this past year, having the success you had, the amount of fans that got involved, yourself having the personal success of how that changed from when you were a freshman here to what, in just 2 short years, what's happened.
Oh man, it's been a lot to take in. It's just been exciting just to see everything unfold.
Yeah.
I had a long journey just to get here, and just to see everything unraveling has just been very exciting to me.
You've gone through a couple head coaches as well. How challenging has that been?
It's really, I want to say challenging, just having an ability to adapt to your circumstances.
Describe Coach Mullen and how friendly is he for an offensive player like yourself, what his play calling is like and how that appeals to you.
Coach Mullen is a great guy. He makes you want to feel wanted. He makes the room light up just being around him. And as an offensive coach, it's great because I'm an offensive player.
Yeah.
He teaches me what I need to do, how I need to do it, because it's always a focus. One thing I can say about Coach Mullen is details. He's a detail-oriented guy. he wants us to get the details down perfectly, because without the details, you can't do nothing else.
I got to ask, you're a rarity these days. You didn't transfer. You stayed your entire career. Tell me about the commitment to UNLV and not heading into the portal.
I've been committed to the school since this was the first school that gave me an opportunity to play football. So I hold that dearly, because I wouldn't know where I would be at to this day. So just honoring that commitment that they showed me. One thing my dad always told me is just staying loyal and just staying commitment, because the love will always come back awful.
What do people underestimate about your game? Like, just watching from afar, from first time watching, it's like, man, you are a fast guy. But what if maybe defenses underestimate you when you see you out there in the field?
I want to say, just because I'm little, probably, a lot of teams or a lot of players try to, like, thud me hard, or, like, just try to, high tackle me, which I love. I love when they do that, because I have great contact balance. I have just the ability just to not want to be tackled.
Yeah.
My mindset has been differently throughout the past couple of years, just wanted to have the ability of just not being tackled, just being that. I love being an underdog. And one thing else I can say is pass pro, which is important. For my position is well important. So pass pro, and just thinking that I'm kind of easily to be tackled.
What is it like playing in an NFL stadium? I'm curious on that. At a home game, what is it like for the fans to come and cheer at Allegiant Stadium?
Oh, it's great. just being in NFL atmosphere, because that's somewhere I want to go in the future. So it's just great having that. The set point for now is just seeing the fans, seeing the dome. It's amazing just to be there.
I got to ask, I know players are normally in their, they don't go far of what they're following. So did you follow when you're hearing North Dakota State's coming into the league? What do you know about NDSU and what they bring to the Mountain West?
Of course. Who doesn't know about you guys? I call you the Bison, right?
Yeah.
It's a great pleasure just to play with guys. Staple of just winning, which is important, and tough, gritty team. It will be well exciting just to play you guys in the dome.
The fact that they're coming to your place as well, I'm sure you like that. The fact you don't have to go to Fargo for the first time.
Yeah, because I know it gets extremely cold. So, I can't do that.
For fans that are going to watch the league, Jaden, for the first time in Fargo, give us a sense of the type of players in the league and what for fans to expect of Mountain West football.
You have a different variety of players. You have tough players, you have your speedsters.
Yeah.
It's a different variety of players who just want to play football. I'll say the Mountain West is an underdog league, because we brought so much talent, even to the NFL, which we don't get enough respect for.
Yeah.
So I'll say just having you guys here would just showcase, we're still a tough league, so you better keep an eye out for us.
Thanks so much for this, and good luck this season, okay?
Of course. Thank you. Thanks for having
Thomas,
me.
standout running back from UNLV, joining us.
Good stuff there. And you saw the highlights. This guy is a touchdown machine. 31 touchdowns in his 3 years. 31 touchdowns in 40 games. Not a great math mind. That's nearly a touchdown a game, so that's pretty darn good. He's not, again, he's not the biggest guy. 5'9", 185. Atlanta native that was recruited to UNLV 2 separate head football coaches ago. I believe when Barry Odom was the coach at UNLV, and who left, and then Dan Mullen was hired prior to last year, and they rip off the kind of season that he had. Also added 39 receptions for 237 yards and a touchdown you saw against Kansas in our highlight reel. We were interviewing him. That's the model there. That's the level of player in terms of skill player that the conference is going to bring to the table. Mike Alahado's another one, the quarterback from Hawaii, who's outstanding player. We had a chance to visit with him and a few others that hopefully we'll have a chance to get to over the next little bit. As I mentioned, it gets beyond that. It gets a little dated. I don't want to do that. We've got much prior, pressing stuff that happening on the day of. But Thomas was one I was excited we were able to visit with, simply because of his stature and knowing full well what his talent is, and just seeing it out there over the last couple of years. But knowing he's a marked man as well, that he's not going to sneak up on anybody considering the kind of success he's had over the last few years. But that's the type of running back or the speed, athleticism that this league presents itself at the skill positions, whether it be at running back, at wide receiver, or quarterback, or cornerback. This is the new bar here. I mean, North Dakota State fans are used to some really bruising backs, like Pierre Strong comes right to mind from South Dakota State. Amar Johnson, another really good back from SDSU. You know, he's, I think, quicker than Sawyer Seidel from UND, who transferred now, is obviously at the University of Minnesota. But that's the type of back that Thomas reminds me of. Because we're used to the big bruisers that get in there and run over guys and make plays. I don't know about the speed is one thing. And we heard that yesterday in the interview we played, whether it would be Timmy Chang, who talked to us about that from Hawaii, or yesterday when Jason Eck talked about it from New Mexico. That was one thing I asked him in the interview, what is different about this particular league than maybe the Missouri Valley. And he said depth and speed. And that's certainly something we'll be keeping our eye on once we get closer to kickoff, which is from today, 38 days away from the start of a new football season. Good stuff there, and we'll podcast that if you missed it earlier in the show. All right, we'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. I mentioned Troy Calhoun, the Air Force head football coach, coming up. And our second hour, we'll also talk some puck with Jon Ammerman. Hour one of Hot Mike wraps on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour here on this Wednesday morning. As I mentioned, we are in the midst of talking season here. SEC Media Days are rolling on. I believe Alabama is the big school up today, with Kalen DeBoer obviously having to answer some questions after how last year panned out for the Crimson Tide and what will happen in 2026. But they are not the only league. Conference USA wrapped up yesterday. They were down in Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington area. They had a 2-day event. MACtion is going today. And obviously, again, we looked at MACtion always with some sort of affection, but now we have two direct ties to MACtion to ask about, with Northern Illinois now a member of the Mountain West Conference in football. And I asked a couple of the players that were there who were just looking for anybody to talk to, because no one talked to the Northern Illinois guys. Northern Illinois and San Jose State I really felt for, because they seemed like they were the ignored at the prom. And I know something about that. But I asked the guys, like, hey, what do you think about not playing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays anymore? And they both lit up, said, yeah, be nice to be playing on Saturdays. So there's the one. The other is obviously Sacramento State has moved up to FBS football. They also are now a playoff-eligible team, bowl-eligible team. The Bison are going to play Sacramento State on September the 19th in Sacramento. And not even the latest kickoff of the season, a 9:30 kick on ESPN. The MAC put out they are still doing a preseason poll. Nobody else is anymore, but we can at least hang on to the MAC that they are doing one. And it wasn't kind to the Hornets. At least the coaches' preseason poll has Sacramento State 12th. Out of 13 teams, only UMass was picked underneath the Hornets. Western Michigan picked to win the league. They got 4 more points than Miami. Western Michigan got 9 first-place votes. Miami got 4. Then Toledo, then Ohio, Central Michigan, Buffalo, Eastern Michigan, Kent State, Bowling Green, Akron, Ball State, Sac State, and UMass. Obviously, with the league no longer including Northern Illinois in it, and Sac State and UMass joining for this year. So, not high expectations whatsoever for the Hornets, and obviously they've gone some significant changes to its roster since, heck, even last year ended their last in FCS, and frankly, they were just average last year in their final FCS season. They did not make the playoffs, and after all that was something that was really interesting to follow last year, was how how much attention was around the team, and yet they struggled on the field. I think there were a lot of FCS teams that took satisfaction in the fact that they were whooping up on the Hornets, knowing how much their president was talking. We remember the whole conversation around Montana and what they called, what the president called him there, and obviously he apologized. Hey, there's some performance art here that was going on, obviously. But they had the last laugh. They are no longer an FCS school. Now they're playing up. We'll see how that works. Obviously, they paid more than the Bison to move up. They're paying for MAC teams to come to their place for conference games. That's a hefty, and it's only for a short-term contract. This is a hefty price that they think is going to pay off in the long run. Maybe they're going to be the ones who have the last laugh, right? Everybody was laughing at them over the last couple of years when Dr. Luke Wood is saying everything he was saying about we're going to be FBS come hell or high water. Well, here we go. They're FBS now, and their first game is in a month. And we'll see how this adventure goes. I'm really interested to see for them how it plays out. The MAC's not great. MAC isn't what it was 10, 15 years ago when Northern Illinois was ruling the roost, when Jordan Lynch was the quarterback and a Heisman finalist. This is not the same league. They've been ravaged beyond measure by the portal. Some of these teams have to play multiple Power 4 opponents early in the year to pay the bills. So is it beyond the realm of possibility they can be good in this league? I don't think so. I think they have a shot. We'll see what they bring to the table. Maybe they won't be good. That's the fascinating part. I at least appreciate the fact they put it out there. I appreciate that they put a poll together, and this is from the coaches. This is from the 13 coaches in the league, let alone the media members. We'll find out, but that's another opponent. So Jacksonville State, we know optimism pretty high for the Gamecocks, so they could be pretty good in Conference USA. Sac State, not so much. The other two non-conference opponents of the Bison have San Jose State, who's in the Mountain West. I think there's a lot of questions there. We'll have our conversation with Ken Niumatalolo coming up either later this week or early next week. And then Fordham, the other one, which is an FCS program, and Fordham, frankly, has not been very good in FCS. So if you're looking at the two teams that are not directly tied to the Mountain West, Jacksonville State, high expectations, Sac State, people don't think they're going to be very good. It's kind of running the gamut there for Bison opponents for 2026. Speaking of a Bison opponent for 2026, Air Force is the first conference road game. We come back, you'll hear from head coach Troy Calhoun about matching up with the Bison and the strenuous things that go into being an Air Force Academy cadet. That's coming up when we start hour 2 of Hot Mic on a Wednesday morning right after this.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 ready to rock and roll here on a Wednesday morning. Jon Ammerman, Moorhead head hockey coach, will join us about a half hour as the Spuds are heading back to Hockey Day, Minnesota. Spuds have got some pretty good press, actually, here today from our friends of the Star Tribune. Joe Christensen was up here yesterday, or I believe Monday, working a story on one Jet Feeney, the quarterback of the Spuds, visiting with him about the anticipation for the 2026 season. I believe we're going to have Kevin here next week to get us ready. We typically like to have many of the area high school, local area high school head coaches here in studio to get us ready for the upcoming year. I think it goes without saying, Moorhead has probably its most anticipated football season ever. Let's just say it ever. I think that's accurate. Coming up here, starting in early September. And after the runner-up finished last year, who they bring back, they're going to be the number one team in the state. I know they didn't win it last year, but they're going to be number one. We'll get to that coming up. We have that. Also, I know there's plenty of conjecture going on circulating around UND hockey announcer Tim Hennessy. Brad Schlossman has a story on that. Well, if we have time, we'll get into that as well on what's going on with his status for this upcoming season. But we tease it enough. We got to make sure we deliver on that. And that is our next coach interview that we had out in Las Vegas. So this one is with Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun. And when the announcement came the Bison were going to join the league, I think many were attracted to the glitziness of the locales like Las Vegas and Honolulu and not necessarily focused on the opponents, Air Force jumped right off the plate to me. And that was one that head coach of the Bison, Tim Polisic, told me that was a nightmare matchup for him in his days in the Mountain West coaching at Wyoming, simply because then Air Force was humming along pretty good. Now, a little background here on the Air Force Academy, that for a while they dominated the Commanders-in-Chief trophy. That goes to the academy that has the best record among the three schools against Navy, Army, and Air Force. And when you do that, you get to go meet the president, which is a pretty darn cool treat of that if you end up doing it. But the rigors of the Air Force Academy do not apply themselves to modern college football. They do not entertain anybody in the transfer portal. You're going to hear why from Coach Calhoun here in a few minutes. They can have players leave. You'll remember, I think Citadel's quarterback last year that came in the game was at the Air Force Academy the prior season in 2024 before leaving. So the players can leave, but entering, that's a whole different deal. They obviously run the triple option on offense, which creates some challenges in its own right. And the academic part of this cannot be underestimated. That is the best way I can set up this conversation, which runs the gamut. We talk a little bit of football, but a lot of things are way big picture. Here's our conversation with Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun.
Super thrilled to meet you because I'm a big fan of you and your program. I asked Coach Ken about this. He got to meet the president. You've done that several times as well. That alone is really, really neat to me. Can you describe that of taking the team to the White House and what that experience is like?
I'll say this. We've been really blessed. What have we been through? Obama, it was Trump, it was Biden. Three straight administrations. And regardless of whether you vote, don't vote, whatever that may mean, I think each was really, really genuine and extended their gratitude, their thanks for our young men and really young women, all of our cadets at the United States Air Force Academy to be able to make a commitment to serve.
To have that, knowing that you're sending young men out and they're not necessarily going to the workforce, they're going to go serve overseas, they're going to be in battle. What does that mean? I mean, it's way beyond a football game.
Well, no question it is. You feel that responsibility. Yeah. You think of really an 18-year-old in 2026 that's willing to say, okay, I know that place is hard. It's hard academically. The military and the squadron obligations you have, the classes that you're going to take, whether it's 2 levels of calculus, aeronautical engineering, physics, astronautical engineering, 2 levels of chemistry, to take 20 semester hours and still find a way to play intercollegiate athletics. Amazing young men and young women, and thankfully they're the ones that ultimately, that when necessary, they're the ones that are going to fight for our freedoms.
Oh, just saying that, I'm exhausted, and not even talking about the football aspect of it. Can you give us what the daily the schedule is for them before they come and see you? Yeah, sure can.
They usually get up right around 6:15. The freshmen get up at 6:15. The upper class get up at 6:30. They have morning formation. They have breakfast. They have class from 7:30 to 11:30. They have noon meal formation where they'll march to lunch. All 4,200 students, cadets, eat at the same time. Wow. Right after lunch, they have a leadership class. It may be, an academy graduate that's a executive vice president or a CEO of a major corporation, or we have 2 former football players that are members of Congress, one a representative in North Carolina, one a representative in Texas, or a colonel or a general or somebody. I mean, it's just unbelievable what they're exposed to. Now, it's hard. I have my freshmen currently. They're in basic training. They have super short haircuts right now. It's not all fun and games right now. Now, they'll be all right. Yeah. They'll get through it. The maturity, the growth, the fortitude, just the toughness that you want in a future officer in our Space Force or our Air Force, you're sowing those seeds.
Man,
I know I'm going to talk somehow transition to football here. I know last season obviously wasn't the kind of year you were hoping for. Tell me about 2026 and how you turn that around, knowing in an era where everybody can add players in the portal, and that's just not available to you at the Air Force Academy.
Yeah, that is hard.
Yeah,
I mean, a real
I bet.
difficult adjustment. And yet, you know what? You got to evolve. That's no matter what you're doing. I mean, if you're if you're at Minot Air Force Base and they used to have propellers and now they have jets, doggone it, let's get on the cutting edge and fly the jets, or if the missiles didn't fly quite as far, and so now the ICBM's got to change a little bit, then let's make that alteration. I'll say this. I mean, it's just things are probably likely to be a little bit cyclical where we are, just because you do not have fifth-year players. Right. You are not able to add from the transfer portal, but guys can depart into the transfer portal. And we have not taken a transfer, or at least in the last 20 years, we have not. I'm certainly open to it. That young person has to know they're going to start from scratch and go through, again, that good haircut and basic training. We'll have a little more experience this year. I definitely think in 2027 we'll have a strong football team. For these seniors, they want to be competitive now, and I want that for them as a coach.
The challenge of running the triple option. Tell me about that. That's the offense you want to run, and having the kind of football players at the Air Force Academy to make that a successful outfit.
Well, it takes a great deal of unselfishness. If you don't have the ball, you are going to be a blocker. I think the other part of it, it fits in terms of the precision, some of the unique, certainly the ball handling, the number of post-snap decisions that have to be made. To a degree, it really fits the makeup of a young person at the Air Force Academy.
I have to ask your thoughts when you heard North Dakota State was being rumored and then being accepted into the Mountain West Conference for football. What was your takeaway from that?
Well, I just don't – never has there been a team that's better prepared to do it. I made an analogy a little bit earlier. I think James Madison really was seamless in being able to make that transition. You're talking about a program in North Dakota State that's resourced so much better than James Madison, where there'll be no hiccups. You look again, the last 14 Power 5 games, to be 9-5, and so to come into the Mountain West Conference, and the amount of money that they have too, right? That's real in this day and age. Having a good-sized wallet is a must.
Bison fans, I think, are looking at the glitzy road games of going to Honolulu and Vegas. I think your place is right at the top of the list. Tell us about what a night game is. That's what it's going to be when North Dakota State comes to Colorado Springs, what that atmosphere is like on a Saturday night.
Well, you never know. Each person has their own perspective in terms of I'll say this. If you love patriotism, if you love being around the men and women who serve and are willing to fight for our freedoms, that is plentiful, and that does get in your bloodstream. If you have pores that open up that way, to see the parachuters, to see the march on of our 4,200 students. Who knows if there are a couple F-15s or F-35s that scoot over the top, and yet still to play competitive football.
Tell me about this league for fans that are going to watch it, Troy, for the first time, that are from Fargo or North Dakota. How do you define what Mountain West football is, in your opinion?
Well, there's great variety, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think, not only in terms of styles of play, geography, different approaches by athletic departments, by the universities, and you do look – every year there are a good number of really, really talented football players. I think probably in recent years, just because there is more roster turnover, a lot of times when do you first recognize that? Maybe after there have been 3 or 4 games. This is a really, really good league. I think it's only going to get better in the upcoming years too. I'll say this, just how moving it is to be around. you want a caffeine jolt, come be around the cadets at the Air Force Academy. And I know I said this a little bit earlier, but really they could go to about any school they wanted to, but there was something in their soul that said, no, I'm going to serve. And wherever they have me go, whether it's CONUS within the continental United States or, I'll tell you, the last 5 months, the number of testimonials I have from former players and what they're doing, what they might have just done here Pacific time in the afternoon that might have happened 9 hours, 9 different time zones away somewhere else. And, whether it's guys even back last June that were in a B-2 squadron that flew for 34 hours from Whiteman Air Force Base in the middle of Missouri to unload on a potential nuclear site there in Iran. And when they share with you, hey, Coach, guess who my refueler was along the way? Or guess who my 2 fighter escorts were? And you remember when they were 17 years old, they were young kids. And yep, today, as a captain or a major, as a fighter pilot, as a bomber pilot, as a servant, as a leader, as an officer for our country, that's incredibly moving and powerful.
Pretty good stuff there with the head football coach at Air Force. And just to reiterate a couple of points that he made there, the academic requirements on a daily basis, just you can't sneeze at that. And when he's talking on the subjects, aeronautical engineering, he lost me there. But this is what obviously they sign up for and know full well what they are getting themselves into. Just on the day experience, and to a T, when I asked the other members of the media that had gathered there that have been in the Mountain West for a bit or covered their respective teams for a bit, all of them said, make sure you get to Air Force. Hawaii is its own deal. Air Force for its pageantry before the game, and you heard Coach Calhoun say, the march into the 4,200 cadets, and we saw something similar at the Citadel last August, and I thought that was really powerful. We stayed on the air when they filed out, and I never got more response on anything we have done for a Bison broadcast like we did for that telecast last August. The F-15 or F-35s that are going to fly over for the game, that's not common, I don't think, anywhere outside of what may happen in Colorado Springs. And you saw the video, and we played that back in February when we did our tour of the league and the different stadiums that were going to be on tap for North Dakota State. That looks like a fantastic environment. The seats 30,000. It's going to be loud. It's the first conference game for the Bison. It's a night game. That's a 9 o'clock, I believe, kickoff Central Time, so 8 o'clock in Colorado Springs that night. There's just a lot of excitement and anticipation for a variety of the games. That one stands out to me as one that, man, here you go. The Bison have played 2 games before that, and those are against, one is a FCS opponent, the other is a former FCS opponent that now is FBS. But to me, here's your welcome to FBS moment. There it is. That game at Air Force on a Saturday night, one of the last games of the day going on in Colorado Springs. Great stuff there, and if you missed it, we'll post that both on Inforum and, of course, on our podcast if you missed it, because it was really good stuff with the head coach of the Falcons. All right, let's break. We come back. Got some breaking Minnesota Lynx news to share. The Lynx play their final game for the All-Star break today. There may be some reinforcements coming and much more in the final 35 minutes or so of our program. Hot Mic rolls on. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. A couple things coming in, wanted to hit on here. Just news of the day kind of stuff. The Minnesota Lynx are playing their final game of the first half of the WNBA season. We showed you the highlights yesterday to start our show of their thrilling win over Seattle on Monday night. They play a day game today. And all reports are that Napheesa Collier will be good to go. She will be playing today and making her season debut for the Minnesota Lynx this afternoon. So already the team with the best record in the league is going to get arguably maybe the best player in the league returning to a team that has the best rookie in the league in Olivia Miles to join their team for the second half of the season. You thought maybe with the All-Star break that wait an extra day or a couple days and the season gets going again, I believe a week from Monday, I should say, when things resume. But no, she's going to be back today. So if you need any reason to watch the best team going, there's another one with Napheesa Collier going to be back in the lineup for the Lynx. I got a couple emails in as well. Yesterday we got wind of and we talked briefly about it with Drew earlier in the show on the waves of firings that went down from Disney and ESPN, notable names, whether it be Cam Newton, who appeared on First Take, I want to say. The one that really got me was Carl Ravitch. Carl Ravitch is a OG'er for me on SportsCenter going back to the early 90s. That was we got cable at my house in 1990. That's when cable came to my house. Okay, I was 11 years old. So that was the biggest thing ever because ESPN then was in my bedroom, right? I was one of the fortunate ones. I had a TV in my room, which probably explains my current profession. But so that was the infancy days. SportsCenter have been around, obviously, since 79. But you want to talk about the heyday of that show was the early 90s, right? So when and Carl Ravitch worked in upstate New York. He worked in Binghamton, which is an hour and a half south of my hometown. So when he got the call up to ESPN, that was a big deal. And he was on with, of all guys, Craig Kilborn, which, again, for a certain age group like myself, that was the heyday. Because they used to do the show at 2 a.m. Eastern time. And if you missed any of this, the Rich Eisen podcast, I can't recommend enough. This was SportsCenter, which goes back of talking about the glory days of the show. But my point was, unlike now where you watch it and it's live, I think at 7 a.m. every day, right? Or at 6 a.m. Central Time. And they have a live SportsCenter pretty much the rest of the day. In those days, those guys would do a live show at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, and then it would replay all morning long. So, like this time in the summertime, you would watch, those guys would be on nonstop it would be from 2 a.m. till like noon before like World Tractor Pulling or something. This is before ESPN had, daily studio shows on. It was fantastic. So you got to know these guys. You like they were part of the fam. And Carl Ravitch has gone on and done everything. He was obviously been ESPN's baseball guy forever. And the part that really irritates me on this is that he found out from a reporter calling him about it. ESPN ain't even told him yet. He called the Dodgers-Phillies game Monday night on ESPN and then is out. And it comes with the territory. The media is a tough business. It really is. The fact that, any of us have any kind of security for a while, you don't take that for granted in this business. Just it's not common. To have a family-owned company is a unique deal for us at Forum Communications because we don't typically have a lot of movement like this. We're unique in that brand in television or in our past life in radio. Tom Pelissero was another one, a guy who lives in Minneapolis and covered the NFL almost as better than anybody next to Rappaport and Schefter. He's there, was let go because of the conglomeration now with ESPN and the NFL Network. I assume they have enough insiders. Not sure they need another one like Pelissero. And there's a handful of David Lloyd's another one that's been on ESPN, been on SportsCenter for almost 30 years. 1997, I think he was part of when ESPN News became a thing. I remember distinctly when ESPN2 started, my cable company, we didn't have ESPN2, but we got it, and that was, people of a certain age will remember as well, ESPN2 had nothing in capital letters. Everything was undercase. That was their calling card. But when we got ESPN News was added in like 97, that was like groundbreaking. Like, wow, okay, here we go. This isn't like typical SportsCenter. We're giving you stuff that's happening like right now, which that was at the dawn of the internet when things were happening then. It's tough to hear. It's a tough deal. And that leads to my other story, more locally connected here. Because yesterday there was a report that came out from Scott Hennon of 970 WDAY Radio, infamy, I'll say, that Tim Hennessy, the longtime radio play-by-play guy for the University of North Dakota, had been fired. Our guy Brad Schlossman has a story out this morning saying that Hennessy is no longer a full-time employee at UND, but could still call games under a new structure for UND this upcoming season. UND eliminated its full-time position within the athletic department and indicated the men's hockey radio play-by-play position will be structured underneath Fighting Hawks Sports Partnerships. So he had been a full-time employee of the school, and that's similar to some other local rights agreements, because I know like Jack Michaels, who calls football and women's basketball, is paid on a game-by-game basis by Fighting Hawks Sports Partnerships. He doesn't work for the school. Our guys at Bison 1660, they don't work for NDSU. They work for Bison 1660. They work for that particular media company. That's different from our deal, where I work for Foreign Communications. Like, I don't have, like, people always get on me like, oh, you're not homer enough for NDSU. You don't say enough. I don't work for NDSU, right? I work for here. The point of Brad's story, though, is there's still a possibility for Tim to come back. Tim was the, I think, 2025 North Dakota Sportscaster of the Year. He missed a large part of this season. I know, battling some health stuff. So I think it was his plan to maybe do one more season. If anybody's heard him call hockey, he's tremendous at it. I can remember distinctly driving around when I was still working, anchoring Saturday nights, putting on the radio and hearing him call the game. With that raspy voice of his, it was unique on its own right. It was great to have the fact that he was able to call the Frozen Four out in Vegas back in April. So that is the attachment from a fan base to a broadcaster. That is so unique with the radio. Television has it, but radio is such an intimate part of that, where you can see that with different, like baseball teams have their attachment to the radio guy. John Sterling, the late, great John Sterling, who called Yankee games forever. The Yankee fans were attached to him. You know, the late, great Scotty Miller, Bison fans, that was an attachment because it was there forever. And this is 4+ decades here. I can't even imagine for whoever does that job next. There are some monster shoes to fill there. So hopefully that gets worked out. But appreciate Brad clearing that story up as well. For it, I got a few text messages on it last night, and I didn't know about it. And Brad's got the story. It's available right now at GrandForksHerald.com. All right, bottom of the hour break. Speaking of hockey, we'll keep that chatter going when we come back. Jon Ammerman will join us as the Moorhead Spuds are heading back to Hockey Day with a familiar opponent. We'll chat about that when Hot Mike returns on a Wednesday morning. Back after this.
This is Hot Mike with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Final half hour here on a busy Wednesday show. If you saw the news on Saturday evening, it came out that the Hockey Day Minnesota lineup was announced for 2027. Hockey Day's coming back to this part of the state. It'll be in Brainerd in late January, and to no one's surprise, maybe, the two-time defending AA state champions have been invited back. The Moorhead Spuds will be participating in a rematch of the state championship game that took place at, I'll still call it XL Energy Center, in March, where the Spuds beat Minnetonka. It'll be them and the Skippers playing outdoors in late January. Great to have head coach Jon Ammerman back with us here on a Wednesday morning, who gets to do the Hockey Day deal once again. We were visiting off air. I remember the first time, at least for you as head coach, that was under the cover of darkness. You were telling me that you were going to St. Cloud, which was, I know, a big deal for you going back. Obviously, we played college hockey. Was this the same cloak and dagger? Have you had to keep this under wraps for a while?
Yeah, and like we talked about, the host site wants to hold that kind of tight to the vest so they can have their day and their announcement. And going up to Brainerd on Saturday was fun, and now that we get to talk about it, it's been something that's been a couple of months in the making and rearranging schedules, but we're looking forward to it.
What was it like telling the guys about this?
Well, so some of them already kind of knew, just especially some of our older guys, just give them a heads up on what our schedule looks like moving forward. But they're obviously excited. I think I mentioned to somebody else that it's a really fun experience. It's as much a game as it is a community event. And I know that in the past we've had a bunch of alumni and people from Moorhead kind of plan around that weekend if they can get there. And I would imagine this will be the same. It's a little different because we're playing on Friday.
Yeah.
It used to be, even now a decade and a half ago when Moorhead hosted it was a day. Now it's turned into an event. So we're going to be a part of the pomp and circumstance, but not on that Saturday.
To be back, this is your, I think, third separate time, I believe, coaching in this. Describe how big a deal this is going to be for more, and especially the fact it's not that far away for people to drive and go to this game.
Yeah, obviously we've been lucky enough to be invited a couple of times, and the logistics is one thing. When are you going? What are ice times? Scheduling that, it's an extra road trip, but ultimately it's a lifetime memory. So the guys that played in St. Cloud, that was their opportunity to do something a little different. It breaks up the monotony of a cold, dark January day. And but other than that, it's a nice celebration of hockey, and we're really excited to be a part.
All right, I'm looking at some of the renderings here, John. What do you know about where the actual rink is? Is it going to be near the racetrack? I know they have a huge grandstand there. What do you know about the actual design of what it's going to look like?
Yeah, I've looked at the same as what you might be looking at. It looks like it's going to be a cool and unique experience. I've never actually been on the grounds of the Speedway, but from what I understand, just logistically, a lot of the different places really have to be creative with use of space and parking. And from what I understand, this place is kind of set up to host something like this. So they should have a lot of leeway and opportunity to showcase not only their community, but also the games as well.
And with the water right there as well, that just makes for a pretty picturesque thing. Obviously, they're doing this for television as well. That's going to make for quite the setting.
Yeah, and for us specifically, it should be a great hockey game. The outdoor element definitely changes things. It's not the prettiest of hockey at times, but it's definitely one that's unique and something the kids remember.
So you've done a little bit of both, because we were talking off air. The last time you played in Warroad, you were during the day. The St. Cloud experience was a night game. This is it started during the day and it finished at night. This is a full-on 7 o'clock deal. What's the challenge of that? Late January typically is chilly around here.
Yeah, well, so knock on wood, every time Moorhead's participated, we've brought nice sunny weather. So hopefully that continues. But every other day there was sun out. And as everybody knows up here, even on a cold day, the sun can make a difference. So that isn't going to be there. So hopefully it's a mild day compared to a late January day. And I can't imagine that's going to be the case. But the last time we were in Warroad, they had heated benches. So that's a difference maker. Hopefully they line that up. If the kids are cold, that's one thing. But hopefully I don't get cold. John,
what are the challenges of scheduling this? Because Minnetonka was already on the schedule. But then to throw a curveball like this, what does that do to your schedule?
Actually, for us, it didn't throw too much of a curveball with especially our schedule and a number of other AA schools. Schedules are set November the year before. So we're almost a full year out. It happened to be where we were playing Minnetonka right around the same time period anyway. So, just by chance, it happened to be a rematch of the state championship. That obviously wasn't planned when we were scheduling, and it worked out. So Mr. Hago didn't have to juggle too much, but there are some logistical issues. We lose a home game, which is too bad, but ultimately it's an okay sacrifice for all things considered.
The fact it's Minnetonka, though, already adds some intrigue to it. Does that just jump off the page as well? Like, all right, here we already know the quality of opponent. Now we've got this kind of stage for the game?
Yeah, and I think, the organizers obviously put a little thought into what they're doing. I think they've done a great job of doing involving a lot of local teams. Like, they have good representation throughout the week. We're kind of the outlier where, we are technically a northern team, but it's two great teams. It should be a great experience. And Under the Lights should be fun.
You mentioned memories forever. For that group that played in it when you were coaching at St. Cloud, those guys now, it's 8 years ago. Do they still talk about it? Is that something you hear from them about that experience in St. Cloud?
Yeah, no question. And not only that, it was an overtime game-winning goal. It was the season we were on that television show. So, ultimately in the end, we didn't get to go to the state tournament that year, but that's one thing that they can definitely hold their hat on. And something that you can look back on for sure.
I have to ask here now, 2 years running is winning this thing. How is life changed for you? Not necessarily maybe on a day-to-day thing, but now as the head hockey coach, a boys head hockey coach at Moorhead High, and you've won the state title 2 years over. How have things changed as opposed to 2 years ago at this time?
Well, I get asked a lot less about the state championship and the lack of it. But outside of that, not a whole lot. Like, we have 4 kids at home, so hockey it's a great thing. I love coaching. I love, working with the kids and seeing them grow. And now we've been around long enough, you get to see where they're at in life afterwards. But the day-to-day really hasn't changed. The goal is still the same. In November, we'll get our group of kids, and hopefully by March, we're playing our best. But in terms of what we expect and hope for in Moorhead, it's still consistent. We hope to have a quality program and a great experience for the kids, and playing our best hockey in March.
Now, if I remember correctly, the last couple times you guys have pulled out all the stops on uniforms for Hockey Day. Is that already in the works for what you may have planned for this particular game?
Yeah, it is. And the first time we played, our hands weren't necessarily tied, but we were working with the television show that we were on at the time, so they had some creative authority. Last time we played in Warroad, it was 3 of our older guys, our captains, that kind of designed it. And to be honest, on paper, I didn't love it, but it looked pretty good when we played. This time I'm doing similar. I'm asking a couple of our guys to come up with some ideas, and then working with the company we work with. There are some priorities. Television does require you to follow some rules, so you can't get too crazy, so you can at least see numbers and stuff, but let the kids have a little fun with it for sure.
Can the skating Moorhead Spud be on there? Because that's my favorite. Can we make that work?
Well, we'll see. They have some okay ideas, which will be unique. Last time they went all white with some orange breezers.
Yes.
I know we're going to be we're the home team.
Okay.
So we're going to have to wear light. Minnetonka's wearing blue.
Okay.
So they have a couple things in the works, and so far it looks okay, and we'll make some refinements and then unveil them in late January.
Because I'm on Feeney all the time about doing something different with like all orange. Can you wear orange, or does it have to be white color for your game?
I think technically we probably could, but the designation right now is light. So I don't know how like a peach or like an apricot would look. I think that might get a little too much.
Probably not great. The skating Spud is even on the shoulders. If you could do that, let's make it happen.
Yeah, well, hey, it's in the kids' hands right now. I do have license to say no on some things, but we'll let them design a little bit.
See, I'm more worried about that. The game itself will be fantastic. We got to see. I know you guys are going to look good out there. There's no doubt. I appreciate you doing this, man. I know you're in the middle of some off-season hockey stuff. Thanks so much for doing this. Be well, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
There he is, Jon Ammerman, head coach of the Moorhead boys hockey team, back on Hockey Day, Minnesota, which will be played at the end of January. Again, I was just looking at the renderings of what, and for those that have been to Brainerd Raceway, which is super popular, it's right there off, you can't miss it on the highway. I'm just really interested of what their setup will look like once we get to the actual game day. The schedule, though, and John's completely right. When the Spuds hosted it way back in 2011, and that was a huge deal for hockey people around here. First off, it was in the middle of February, and it was too warm. The ice melted behind, which is now the Cullen Hockey Center. It starts on Tuesday. The DL girls are going to play against Northern Lakes on Tuesday, January 26th. Then on Thursday, the 28th, the Warroad girls will play against St. Cloud. The Spuds will play on January the 29th. It's a Friday night against Minnetonka. And then Saturday is the actual hockey day when Brainerd, the Brainerd Little Falls girls will play Bloomington Jeff. The Brainerd boys will play Buffalo. That's a great rivalry there. And then the St. Thomas men will play St. Cloud State on that rink at 4 o'clock. And I'm not going to ask John this because he doesn't know. The television part of this is completely up in the air. That's something we don't know of where we can find the games, and that goes back to a topic we talked about at the start of the show on when and where this is going to air come the end of January, because this has been a huge deal for the last 15 to 20 years. It has completely blown up across the state, and the Spuds are back in it now for a fourth time. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll put a bow on things. Get you ready now for an extra pumped-up Wednesday sports day with Nafisa Collier back for the Minnesota Lynx. Hot Mike will wrap right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Wednesday morning. Back with you tomorrow. Another action-packed show on tap, including you'll hear from the contingent from Jacksonville State. I'm trying to think of who else we want to run from our Mountain West coach interviews that we've had. We've got just a few left. Jeff Choate from Nevada, we've yet to hear from. Ken Niamatololo from San Jose State. Rob Harley from Northern Illinois. Jay Sawville from Wyoming. I believe that's everybody we've gone through here. So we'll have that as part of our continuing Mountain West coverage to get you ready for the upcoming season. There are so many lists. I don't know how to judge what to make of this, but there's one feed that got sent to my social media of the top 10 easiest non-conference schedules in college football. North Dakota State is on that list at 7, along with South Florida, Indiana. Nebraska is on there at 3. We went through this last week when Stace made his infamous bet, the Huskers getting over 6.5, with Bowling Green, Ohio, and UND are the 3 non-conference games for the Huskers. Texas Tech is on there, Penn State, Wake Forest, North Dakota State, Southern Cal, Wyoming, and Arizona. Penn State has Buffalo, Marshall, and Temple as its 3 non-conference games. Texas Tech has Oregon State, Sam Houston, and Abilene. Wyoming goes Colorado State, Northern Colorado, Central Michigan, and Connecticut. Connecticut, by the way, is its finale this season. Going back to the top of the show on the streaming deal. Dom, endless options for kids, but parents aren't paying for it. What will future fandom look like for the various sports when the primary customer is now 30 years old, but weren't exposed to it as kids? Well, I guess they'll find it one way or the other. You'll find it if you really want it. I guess the emailer's point is on if you're not exposed to it at an early age, like I was, because it was free, it was over the air, you got it on ESPN or whatever, and that hooked you. Like hockey's a prime example of that. Hockey was not readily available until ESPN got its deal in whatever it was, 92, 93, and then it was there. It was on all the time. Then you got hooked. If those sports aren't readily available, just like baseball or hockey or the Wolves, is there an appetite for it because you haven't been exposed to it? We'll find out. That's awfully intriguing. If you want it enough, you'll buy it. That's what the the sports properties, entities, leagues are banking on. And the NFL, they've proven correct on that. The other leagues, we'll see. I think if the product is good enough, you'll pay for it. But that's certainly a question going forward. Good email there to end the show. Let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. All right, well, let's see if the Twins can get off the schneid here tonight. Game 3 with the Guardians, 5:30 on Twins TV with Bailey Ober pitching. He's the only guy that's won a game since the All-Star break. He won Friday in Chicago. That Lynx game is certainly amped up now because Nafisa Collier is playing 2 o'clock. That's on Victory Sports. That's the streaming service that has all the Lynx games, going back to our conversation at the top of the show. And SEC Media Day is rolling on ESPN+. You'll hear from Kalen DeBoer, head coach of Alabama, today about the expectations the Crimson Tide have this year. Our thanks to Jaden Thomas, to Troy Calhoun, to Drew Trafton, and Jon Ammerman for joining us. Missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. Watch a full replay on WDAY+. Thanks so much for making us part of your day. Everybody have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.